listening to, you are absolutely listening to the George Espenlaub Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm. Now, with no further ado, here comes Georgie!
All righty. Thank you. Thank you very much. My. Here we are. It's Wednesday night, and we are live from the Funny Farm in a place called Our World. We're going to get serious here in a little while, but first, let me say this. If you're down the street, around the corner, across America, or somewhere around this world, I welcome you to the George Espenlaub Show. I'm delighted that you're here. Grab a friend, reach out, however you reach out nowadays, by calling them, texting them. There's multiple ways. Use those devices and use those phones and tell them the George Espenlaub Show is live right now on Spreaker.com, and we're everywhere else also. Now, we have two goals in mind, and I say this most every time we come on the air. Number one, we want to put a smile on your face. If we can make you laugh, we'll even feel better. And the second thing is, we want to make you, when we're not serious, we want to make you just as goofy. Everybody knew what I was going to say. We want to make you just as goofy as the rest of us. How's that? All right? All righty. We've got a great show tonight, a great show. We have, for you listeners that have been with us for a long time, and for you that have just recently started listening, but nonetheless, if you know or you know that we have had some technical difficulties several times over the past couple of weeks. Hopefully, I want you all to keep your fingers crossed, your legs crossed, anything that you can cross, that we have our technical difficulties all ironed out, everything straightened out. I believe that it was a simple fix, and I better knock on wood, so I'm knocking on my head. But I believe it was a simple fix, and we're going to find out tonight if it was or if it wasn't. So hopefully, we got that dilemma out of the way. We also want you to know that tonight's show is being sponsored by Unicorn Chasin' with Maxine and Walter. That's Unicorn Chasin', Chasin. Unicorn Chasin' with Maxine and Walter. Look them up on Facebook. They have what is known as ring bomb parties. Live on Facebook. Unicorn Chasin', Chasin, Unicorn Chasin' with Maxine and Walter. Look them up on Facebook and visit with them when they have their ring bomb parties live. They'll be delighted that you showed up, and I'll bet you'll be glad that you showed up too. And more on that later on in the show. I want to thank Charlie for his fine introduction. He does a great job. He really needs to be applauded, I think. That's it. Charlie has been with me for years, and I'm not exaggerating. Charlie has been my sidekick right here. He runs the soundboard, and we appreciate Charlie and thank him for everything that he does. And you'll hear much, much more about Charlie in the days and the weeks to come. I'll share with you who is on the schedule for the remainder of this week and what we have planned for every night of the week next week, a little bit later in the show. But right now, I want to bring our guest on, who is Mr. Richard Green, and he has recently written a book, Agents of Deceit, the true story of life inside today's chaotic and dysfunctional I.R.S. So I think you'll be sitting on the edge of your seat by the time this is all over and done with. And with no further ado, Richard, thank you for coming to the George Espenlaub Show tonight.
Oh, thank you, George.
This is, as you and I were discussing off the air, as I was reading through your book, it came to me, the old cliche, there's only two things certain in life, that's death and taxes. And I got to thinking, well, when you pass away, you're gone. But taxes, they come every year, and it frightens a lot of Americans, does it not?
Right, and rightfully so, but if they knew the facts, they would probably be a little less scared and maybe even contemptuous of the I.R.S.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can find Richard, and I'll let Richard give the website. We've got it up on the George Espenlaub show page on Facebook, the link that you can go and you can visit his website. You can get the book. So, Richard, give us that website where people can go.
Well, it's a www.agentsofdeceit.com.
Agentsofdeceit.com. So, ladies and gentlemen, write that down. Put it in your notes or whatever you use to keep things, in the proper category. But it's agentsofdeceit.com. And there you can, like the newspaper man says, there you can read all about it. The book is titled Agents of Deceit. Richard, they can get it on Amazon.com?
Right. They can get it as a Kindle book and order it on Amazon.com.
Okay. And we'll come back to that website and where they can get it again, because we want people to be aware of that. Ladies and gentlemen, I have I have been through this book. I'm an avid reader, so I've been through this book, and it's written that everyone can understand it. And it's informative. Some of it might even be a little bit funny. But I think it's a good read, Richard.
Oh, thank you.
Let's get started in this thing.
Yeah, I wanted to show what the I.R.S. is really like from the inside, and the fact that they're the Keystone Cops. They're disorganized. They're really not sure what they're doing. The only weapon they have is intimidation. They can't. It's very difficult to put you in jail for tax fraud. Out of the hundreds of millions of returns that are filed every year, there's only 200 to 2,000 prosecutions a year. And yet brings to mind the old Chinese saying that you kill a chicken to scare the monkeys. They only go after people that they know they can get a conviction. if it's big time fraud, if you're a high profile individual so they can make an example out of you, those are the ones they want to put in jail. They can't put 200 million taxpayers in jail, and they know that, so they have to resort to intimidation.
What years did you work for the IRS?
Well, I started in 1989, and I lasted for 5 years. I was fired for being a whistleblower, but you don't need to feel sorry for me because I had a very good lawyer who got me a very generous settlement, tax-free.
That's excuse me for laughing, but tax-free and the IRS just don't seem to go together, right?
Right. It kind of rubs it in.
I'm sorry for laughing, Richard, but that just tickled me.
No, it is bizarre and absurd, and of course it is ironic as well.
I'm going to try to get over this laughing spell, but that was. Well,
the IRS needs to be laughed at. They have to know that we're not really panic-stricken about them. Satire and humor are very, very powerful weapons.
So tell me, you were fired for being a whistleblower, but I'm, and this is the question I'm asking, you wasn't actually, on their part, you wasn't actually fired for being a whistleblower. I mean, they come up with something other than that, right?
Oh, yeah, like insubordination. They really harassed me. That was the basis of my lawsuit. They really harassed me, like showing up on my porch, brandishing guns. So they fired me so that I really couldn't. I mean, they harassed me to the extent that I couldn't really do my job. And then they just flat out lied about me. No, if you would ask them, do they fire whistleblowers, they would righteously say, no, we don't. We welcome whistleblowers. They help us to clean up our act. But if they want to fire you for being a whistleblower, they'll find a way.
So what happened that, or what position did you find yourself in, or how did it happen that you ultimately became a whistleblower? And if I read correctly, well, I'll get to that later. But what happened that what was it that really got you that you became a whistleblower?
Well, I'll have to confess, I was raised to really respect the government, to do as I was told. My dad was a preacher for a fundamentalist sect. And so I was raised that yours is not the reason why, yours is simply to do or die. And when I first started, I really felt like I was at home. This is the conditions I was raised under, where your leaders are always right. You never question your superiors. I guess the turning point came when doing we had a workshop, and the IRS are always looking for groups to target. And we were told I was in West LA, and we were told that if we ever got a return from a South Korean, a Filipino, or a Armenian, we were immediately to investigate it as fraud, because you can't trust those people because they come from countries which are corrupt, and so they're naturally corrupt. And that just didn't seem right, that you single out a whole group of people as being potential fraudsters. So I went to the LA Times and unburdened myself, and I got a good write-up in the LA Times. But that's when the harassment started.
Do I understand?
So
I'm sorry I interrupted you, but do I understand that it was front page LA Times?
It wasn't front page on the. It was front page on the business section.
Okay.
And the article is on my website if anybody wants to read it and make their own judgment.
So they said we're going to target these people.
Right.
And if you see something from one of these people, investigate.
Right. It was similar to I don't know if you remember, but do you remember when they were targeting the Tea Party?
Yes.
It was like that. I'm not hard right, but it didn't seem fair to target people just because they had a political viewpoint, which might or might not agree with my own. And so I think what that proves is they'll go after anybody, liberals, conservatives, anybody they think they can get a whole lot of adjustments from. That's who they'll go after.
And so you took this to the LA Times, and
right,
that's when your troubles begin.
Right.
What? I mean, you said they came to your house.
Mm-hmm.
On the job, I imagine that you were harassed pretty good.
Oh yeah. I.R.S. agents are noted for being very casual in their work. You know, you come when you want, you go when you want. You can take longer lunch breaks. And so what they do, if they don't like you, then they will start documenting you for anything they possibly can. And so that's what they did to me. If I did anything that was overlooked when I was in their good graces, they would document me. And so I ended up having to take a leave of absence because the pressure was so much. And so that was one of the things they cited, is that I had too many sick days.
So how long did this harassment go on?
For about a year.
And so when you took a leave of absence, that must have been the little golden nugget they were looking for. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. The whole point is that they harass you, they try to drive you crazy, and some people would agree that I was driven crazy. And then when you follow your doctor's orders, and I had statements from my doctor, when you follow your doctor's orders, then they fire you. And they treat agents they don't like just like they do taxpayers. They can always find something to nail you on if they look hard enough. Usually they're too lazy to look for anything. But if you really step over the line, they'll find something.
So, was there? Are the IRS employees? Are they? Don't they have a federal union that they belong to, or anything like that?
Right.
And that.
Yeah, the union really stood behind me.
But they got rid of you anyhow.
Right. But it cost them a lot of money.
Mm. Now, let me ask you, and I guess you've been asked this question I don't know how many times. Tell us why you wrote this book. I mean, I'm glad you did, but tell us why you wrote it.
Well, I was motivated by the same spirit that I went to the L.A. Times. I think the story has to get out. Not only how they abuse taxpayers, but, people have the idea that the I.R.S. is a well-oiled, functioning, bureaucratic machine, and that's completely wrong. They're just organized. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And so I wanted to get that out. And I figured some of it would be helpful to taxpayers that are being audited if they know what the chinks in the armor are.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can get this book, Agents of Deceit, The True Story of Life Inside Today's Chaotic and Dysfunctional IRS, written by Richard A. Green, who is a former IRS agent. You can go to his website, agentsofdeceit.com, or you can go to amazon.com and you can type in that little search box thingy, Agents of Deceit, Richard A. Green, and you can get it on Kindle, or you can get it, it's in the paperback. That's what I have in my hand. Right, Richard?
Right.
The IRS. I don't know if I've ever come in contact with anyone that said, I love the IRS, or I love paying taxes. Not in my lifetime.
There's two mantras in the IRS. Articles of faith is that number one, nobody likes paying taxes, and number two, there's an awful lot of fraud out there. And so it's a culture of suspicion. The whole mindset of the IRS is that any given person who's not an IRS employee, any given person is probably committing fraud. It's just a matter of proving it.
What is the percentage of people that gets audited, and what's the criteria, for the most part, of getting audited? Well,
the figures I heard is something like 1 or 2% of taxpayers are audited. And what most people don't realize is that the whole auditing process is highly subjective. If I was still at if I was still with the IRS and I went and said, George, I'm sure is committing tax fraud. I'm sure that he has speaking engagements where he's paid in cash. That could trigger an audit. That doesn't mean I would be auditing you, but that is possible. That could trigger an audit. The way that it functions, the official way that it functions, is that every tax return that's filed, they run it through the computer, and they have something like 200 different parameters they look at, I think it is, and it's assigned a diff score, discriminant information function. And so what they'll do, if you get a high enough diff score, it'll be kicked out for an audit. Now, it's a top secret what your diff score is. You can't tell anybody. So when you file a return, you have no way of knowing whether it's a diff score of 25 or 250. Well, there is a workaround. Most of the tax preparation programs like TurboTax, they managed to get information about how the DIF score is calculated. They filed a FOIA request for anonymized data. In other words, they got all the tax returns, but the personal information was deleted. And so they built into the program a feature that when you fill out your taxes, it will tell you whether or not it's likely to be red flagged. So if you're reporting income of $50,000 a year and you're claiming $5,000 for charitable contributions, which is unusual, that's flagged for the IRS. And so you can get an idea of how close to the edge you're skating if you use one of these software programs.
Ladies and gentlemen, the book, Agents of Deceit, The True Story of Life Inside Today's Chaotic and Dysfunctional I.R.S. by Richard A. Green. Go to his website, agentsofdeceit.com, and go to Amazon.com. You can get it in paperback and Kindle form. Just type in up there in that little search thingy, Agents of Deceit, and that puppy will bounce right up there for you. Richard?
They do have to put in my name because there are several books named Agents of Deceit. They're usually novels about corrupt cops or detectives or something like that.
Okay. So go to Amazon.com, up in that search thing, put Richard. Do we need your middle initial too?
Yeah.
Okay, put Richard A. Green. Then it'll pop up. I was on there today, and I can't remember what I did. But anyhow, Amazon.com, go up in that search thing and put in Richard A. Green, and it'll come to you. Or go to his website, agentsofdeceit.com, and you can read all about Richard, read about how to get the book, all them good things. It will really interest you. Now, Richard, in Chapter 7 of your book, I find it very, very interesting. And you titled it, Congress and the I.R.S. the ultimate love-hate relationship. Now, can you just explain that to us in layman's terms that we might, kind of get the drift?
Well, I guess a crude example would be the relationship of a drug abuser with his drug supplier. He needs a drug supplier just like Congress needs the money. But there's certainly no affection or respect for the I.R.S. And the I.R.S. claims in these documents that I had in the from the GAO in the appendix, anytime a mistake is pointed out by the Government Accountability Office, the IRS's standard excuse is that Congress won't provide us the resources. Well, I think Congress, at least part of their thinking, is that they don't want to make the IRS even more of an abuser and big brother than they already are. But they really need the money, and so they don't necessarily like funding them, but they have to. They're hooked on the revenues.
So the big machine has to be fed, and
right
through the IRS. That's how the big machine is fed. Congress,
right?
Congress, and we were discussing off the air. You and I are about the same age, so we've seen a lot of presidential elections and congressional elections and so on and so forth. Congress. And more so recently in our lifetime than years gone by. Congress, Richard, to me, and this is just me, Congress just seems to be sitting on their thumb when it comes to making any changes to the tax laws and doing anything that will bring the IRS under some kind of control. Am I right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why is that? I mean, other than the fact that you just stated, they need to feed.
Well, yeah, the members of Congress, as you know, are taxpayers, and they don't like to be bullied. Mm-hmm. And there have been a few occasions when Congress people have been indicted for tax fraud, some on pretty shaky grounds. And so the uppermost thought in their mind, I think, is that I don't want to piss off the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to any congressperson, well, I shouldn't say any because I haven't talked to all of them, but most congresspersons agree that the IRS is really a law unto itself. But what to do about it?
There have been, excuse me, there have been several great proposals that I have heard of and that I have personally been behind over, I don't know, the last several years. But it seems like every single time, Richard, that one of these proposals, such as the VAT or the fair tax, one of these proposals comes to a committee and they talk about it, blah, 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 blah. But it never gets out of committee. It never sees the light of day. And countless, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans would love to see something like that. Why is that? I mean, you would think that a politician could go back to his constituents and say, look, I'm all for a VAT or I'm all for a fair tax. I'm all for cutting, trimming, throwing out, breaking up, pulling down this monster we call the IRS. You would think that that politician, regardless of what he walks under, the title that he walks under, would be more than happy to say, I'm doing this. How about my constituents? Do you love it? And there are countless people that would love something like that. Why does it never see the light of day?
Well, I think it again comes back to the brainwashing. Everybody is convinced that we have to have the IRS or the government would implode. And I'm really trying to push the national sales tax or that simply because it gets rid of the bureaucracy. State tax bureaucracies, they're pretty, they're not really complicated. They're not really out to gouge people. You know, you pay your 8% tax and everybody forgets about it. And so people are basically conservative. I mean, not just Congress, but all of us have been brainwashed that we need to have the IRS. You know, people just can't really seem to think of alternatives. And you also have to add to the fact that there's a tremendous tax lobby. Tax attorneys, the H&R blocks, they have their livelihood depends on it. You know, if you or I were making $300 to $1,000 per hour, we would be pretty disgruntled about changing things, and we'd be willing to spend a lot of money for lobbyists. Now, the irony of it is, the irony is that economists have estimated that the cost of tax compliance plus the cost of the tax bureaucracy is something on the order of $300 to $500 billion a year. If it wasn't for the IRS, we'd have $300 to $500 billion to pay down the deficit, or to use for other purposes. But people just can't make that quantum leap going from being bullied and intimidated to being completely free. It's going to be a real uphill battle to get a sales tax or a VAT.
Let me ask you this, and you were on the inside, and now you're on the outside.
Right.
Tell me, if you would, your honest opinion. Do you think that such a thing is ever going to happen?
Well, I'd have to give you two different answers. I'm concerned that there's not the political will to do it, because you can't. It's hard to change something that you've had for 100 years. But I do think that eventually the logic of it will become so apparent that there will be a change. Other countries use a VAT. I mean, a VAT isn't like some esoteric thing that nobody's ever heard of.
Right.
So I'm optimistic in the long term, but I'm somewhat pessimistic in the short term.
That was a brilliant answer. I would have never come up with that. But thank you. and I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that. It was just us sitting here thinking. Sometimes.
No, I understand.
Sometimes
I've been asked a lot more dangerous questions by the I.R.S. internal security apparatus, so I can handle about anything.
Oh my goodness! I just have to ask you this, Richard. And if you don't want to discuss it, that's fine. I understand. The lowest the lowest learner episode, where they were targeting people for their political statutes. Now, I watched that. I watched the whole thing, and I just knew that the other shoe was going to drop. I just knew it. Now, I can't help but sit there and watch these things, and I think, if I would do something like that, they wouldn't put me in jail. They'd put me under the jail.
Right.
Why was nobody ever brought to accountability for that whole fiasco?
Well, I think that's a typical political situation. Lois Lerner did resign shortly thereafter, and from a bureaucrat standpoint, being forced to resign is pretty heavy duty. So she didn't get off tax-free. She didn't get off scot-free. But no, I don't expect to see mass arrests or mass indictments for I.R.S. agents.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Or managers.
Ladies and gentlemen, the book, Agents of Deceit, the true story of life inside today's chaotic and dysfunctional I.R.S. by Richard A. Green. Go to his website, agentsofdeceit.com. Go to Amazon.com, and in the little search box up there, type in Richard A. Green, and it will bring the book up. And it is a tremendous read. I like the back of the book, Richard, where it says, Rick Green set out to be the best internal revenue agent he could be. He never imagined that being a good agent required him to be a bad person. I like that. We're going to push this.
Well, it's from the heart.
I can see that. We're going to push this book, Richard. We're going to push your website.
Okay, I really appreciate that, George.
And I really want you to come back again. Would you be willing to do that?
Oh, I'll be glad. Sure. You're a very sympathetic interviewer.
Thank you. But I thank you for your time. And after the show tonight, if you don't mind, I'll give you a buzz, and we can discuss some things that we discussed off the air. Will that be all right?
Okay, sure.
All righty. Mm-hmm. And I'll continue to push this book, push the website. I'll be sending it out to some other people, so on and so forth. And Richard, until I talk to you again later on this evening, I thank you for coming on, my brother. The best of health, the best of luck. And let's go get this thing. How's that?
Okay, great, George. Yeah, it's great working with you.
All right, sir. I'll talk at you later.
Okay, thanks, George.
Bye-bye. My, oh, my. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back right after this.
There's a heavy weight you've been trying to hold on to, but you can lay it all down with me. 'Cause in the end, I'm just trying to show you you don't need more pain and misery. And baby, 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 you gotta hold on to what we got and give me, give me, give me all of your love, all of your love. Yeah, baby, 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 you gotta hold on to what we got and give me, give me, give me all of your love, all of your love. 'Cause me and you, we got a good thing going. Don't cast it off. Just let this love keep showing. Yeah. Ooh. You say you're tired and you're growing weary. I'm here to give you everything you need. Your heartaches and pain will all heal with time, girl. Your love is mine if we plant the seed. And baby, 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 you gotta hold on to what we got and give me, give me, give me all of your love, all of your love. Yeah, baby, 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 you gotta hold on to what we got and give me, give me, give me all of your love, all of your love.
All right. Well, hey, listen, I've been looking at some statistics. Sometimes I can't say that word. Statistics. You better stop, Espenlaub, while you're ahead, or you're just gonna, you won't be able to speak for splutter. But anyhow, I was I was looking at some interesting material. How's that? Lately. Listen, if you know of someone who didn't hear the show or any of the previous shows, please remind them any way you can contact them. Please remind them that they can go and they can download the show, download as many as you want. I was looking at one statistic, and I don't remember what day it was, but it was several days ago. Someone downloaded 15 downloads. I don't know if they was of previous shows or all one show, but they downloaded 15 shows. So you can download it, or you can just come back and listen to any of the episodes that you so choose. You just pick out the one you want to listen to that you missed, and do that. So it's right there. It's available. It don't cost you a penny. We have went over 21,000 plays, and we're in foreign countries. That's why we say down the street, around the corner, across America, and around the world. We're not exaggerating. That is the truth, and we would by no means do that. But we are here, there, everywhere, and y'all know, I've said it, I don't know, 100 times or more, that we are out there on all different kind of platforms, including I.R.S, Spotify, so on and so forth, YouTube, boom, 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 boom. So we're out there everywhere. And we will be back right after this. Hey, have you ever been to a ring bomb party? Well, Maxine and Walter wants to invite you to one. Listen, go to Facebook. Type in that little search thingy there. Unicorn Chasing, Chasin. Unicorn Chasing with Maxine and Walter. Look them up. They go live. They have what they call live ring bomb parties. Follow their page. Every time they go live, you will be notified. That's Unicorn Chasing, Chasin. Unicorn Chasing with Walter and Maxine. What is a ring bomb party? You've got to look them up. Look them up on Facebook. Visit one of their lives. They'll be delighted that you did, and I know you'll be glad that you did also. Unicorn Chasing with Maxine and Walter. And Maxine says the pre-order doors are open. Good. And make sure you look up Unicorn Chasing with Maxine and Walter on Facebook. Let me get the right page here on my nifty calendar dooflicky so I can read the thingamajig on the whatchamacallits. If you understood that, that's scary. All right, Friday night. Mr. Alan Banks, CEO of Proactive Protective Agency, will be with us. They will be sharing with you what they do. They provide security for some dignitaries, so on and so forth, but they do a multitude of other things. So Mr. Alan Banks will be with us, the CEO of Proactive Protective Agency. He'll be here at 8 p.m. Friday night. That's Eastern Daylight Time. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, and mark this down. Write it on your hand or any place that you keep notes, on your devices, on paper, whatever. Stick it on the refrigerator, whatever. Next week, we're going to be running shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And this is what those shows are going to consist of. They are going to be consisting of musicians, bands, I mean real toe-tapping, finger-snapping, head-bobbing, booty-shaking bands. And, listen to me, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. And I mean, the Funny Farm is going to be rocking and rolling, and we've got them coming. They're lined up, and we just thought we're just going to have us one big jam week next week. And we invited the bands, the guests. They're going to be on. We're going to feature their music. We're going to laugh. We're going to rock. We're going to roll. I mean, we are really going to get with it next week.
Speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we had on the George Espenlaub Show Mr. Richard A. Green, who has written a book, and he was on the inside, so he knows all about it. He's written a book, Agents of Deceit, the true story of life inside today's chaotic and dysfunctional I.R.S. And you can get it at Amazon.com. Just go to Amazon.com, and in the little search thingy, that's what I call that, the search thingy, just type in there Richard A. Green, and the book will pop up, and you'll get to see that puppy. And I would suggest, I have a copy of it right here in my hand. It's very interesting. It's even sometimes funny, very serious, very informative. So make sure that you get a copy of Agents of Deceit at Amazon.com by Richard A. Green. Go to his website. It is agentsofdeceit.com. I know he'll appreciate it. Let's spread the word. Tell people if they missed tonight's show, you got to go hear this man who was with the I.R.S. He was fired. They called him he is a whistleblower. He said that himself. He filed a lawsuit. He won. And as they say, the rest is history, and he wrote the book. And it's just, it's been recently published, so it's not like it's a moldy oldie. It is fresh off the press. And we thank him for being with us tonight. Wow. Time has just went by so fast. Man, what a shame. And we had no burps, no hiccups. I better knock on my head again, knock on wood. Thank goodness for that. Smooth sailing tonight. Maybe our fix worked. I hope so. Hey, listen. If you're down the street, around the corner, somewhere across America, or somewhere around this world listening to the George Espenlaub Show, I sure thank you from the depths of my heart. Thank you, thank you, thank you over and over again for tuning in and being with us. Remember, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we go live. Live, that's right, with the wrinkles, the warts, the whole 9 yards. Anything that can happen sometimes does happen. But I want to thank you for tuning in. Tell somebody about it. The George Espenlaub Show, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And I sure thank you for tuning in. I thank you for those that are going to be tuning in, so on and so forth. I want to thank all the gang here at the Funny Farm. Charlie, Miss Ernestine, Harvey, Gertrude. Oh boy, Gertrude, she is a piece of work. Dorothy, the opera singer. Travis, Pam, our upper driver. And it goes on and on and on and on. From all of us here to all of you out there wherever you are. I trust that you'll have a good night if it's nighttime. If it's already daylight, like tomorrow, where you're listening from, have a great day. But regardless, I trust that God will keep you right in the center of his hand. Be careful out there. Be kind to one another. Love one another. Help one another. Until Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, this is George Espenlaub saying, see you later. God bless you, and thank you. Thank you for tuning in.